you to know that this is not just a hike, this is an event. So I apologize to those of you who want to just hike. I've already apologized to Bill because I don't think he usually prepares like this. But we want to hear from Bill first. Thank goodness for Bill writing these books.
Yeah, I have a tough job. I get to go hiking for a living. But I've written 17 books now. And the one that really launched it was the story of a 1,000-mile hike I took across Oregon, listening for coyote. And kind of the center of that hike was going through Crooked River Ranch. Because I went from the westernmost point of Oregon, Cape Blanco, alone with a backpack, to the easternmost point at the bottom of Hell's Canyon in 1985. And the roads were gravel here, I recall. There were not that many houses here. There were more trailers than there were actual houses, and it was a little more rustic. And getting from the Deschutes Arm, the suspension footbridge in Cove Palisades, up to Crooked River Ranch took some doing because I had to pick my way up through the rim rock following coyote and deer trails there. So I didn't actually see a lot of people in Crooked River Ranch. But on the other side, I ran into some people and up at Smith Rock. And I think the story in listening for coyote is as much about the people as the adventure. Anyway, it's great to be back. I featured the 3 hikes nearby in the latest edition of my 100 Hikes book. For these 100 Hikes books, I've hiked every trail I could find in the state, and I update them every year, and I give away a free copy to anyone who finds an update I've missed. That's true. You go to my website, OregonHiking.com, and click on Trail Updates, and if you find a missing bridge or sign or changed trail, let me know, and I'll gladly give you any one of my books for free. I can't re-hike every trail in the state every year, but so I kind of rely on input from hikers like you. So we've got a perfect day for this. It's not going to be hot, it's not going to be too cold, it's not going to rain, and there's wildlife out there. We've got Forest Service people who've got botanists who can tell us about the ecosystem and the fire ecology. We've got a birder who can talk about the golden eagles that are nesting along the way, and that's one reason we're doing the upper trail and not the lower one. We've got spotting scopes. We've got food. And we've got options. It's about a little over 1.5 miles up to sort of a rendezvous point where the trails cross. And that could be a turnaround point if you don't want to do more than 3 miles or so, because that's almost level out to there. And we'll stop out there and talk a little bit. And then if you want to do more, there's this extra 3-4 mile loop out Otter Bench where you kind of get a glimpse down into the canyon where Opal Springs is. Huge springs that they hold and use for water and eggs.
And isn't that, didn't they donate the water?
Earth 2.0 donated the water.
And you're pointing at who?
The
the sign. Sorry. The biggest thing in the room. Earth 2.0, so the water is from the Opal Springs, what do I want to say? Opal Springs. And it's great water. We have it at our house, and it's very, very pure water. So they donated for you guys.
I'd also like to introduce my wife, Janelle Sorensen. Who put up with my being gone on that 2 month trip, and afterwards said that she probably had the harder time of it. Because she had 2 small kids and had to keep her job in preschool, and went through, in 64 days, went through 13 babysitters. So not all that easy. And I had to promise that I would give her an escape someday too. And so a couple of years later, she got to go to the Arctic Circle in Norway with her mother to see their family's farm. So they got their turn. That trip was more expensive. One trip was $250. Just
1985.
Yeah. It was just oatmeal and rice and a little bit of ramen noodles and gore. That's about it.
From what you said, it was a lot of ramen noodles.
Yes. And then a bus ticket back from Hell's Canyon.
Well, Bill has just been fascinating for the last 2 days. I've been getting to hear him speak. And Janelle has just been a wonderful addition. She is an artist, and if you haven't gotten a chance to go to the art gallery in Madras for the rest of the month, which is now just another week or so, her work is there along with Bill Vollmer, who is filming, has photographs. If you get a chance, Stacy Lacey, where are you? Stacy Lacey, another wonderful Madras High School graduate, is doing a Google Earth tour of Bill's route.
And this is Art Adventure Gallery right on Main Street and on D Street in downtown Madras.
As we say, coming from this way, you stop at the first stoplight, and you immediately turn into that block, and you're there.
Which direction?
Going north.
Going north.
From here.
Going north. It's on the Main Street as you go north.
Oh, it's on the main street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just after D.
But it's the art gallery is on the block right after on the main street.
Okay.
You'll see it if you go past. So first stoplight, it's really easy. I don't know, just cross them at the cross street. I mean,
It's right after D.
Thank you. You know, it takes out of towners to know the names of the streets. One of the interesting things, Bill, I think you've had groups this big before, but not often.
Not hiking. It's awkward to do a group of 50 when you're hiking, so we can't all expect to be in one group. We're going to have to break up a little bit. Janelle has agreed to sort of be the sag wagon at the back. So don't be embarrassed. If you want to go slow, that's fine. Janelle says she likes to go slow too. And I'll probably be sort of frontish, but we'll all rendezvous after a mile and a half at this big crossing, and we'll get a chance to all talk and hear a little bit more from the Forest Service there. I think they've even got, they're going to have stations along the way, so don't feel that you have to be with me all the time. But we'll have other
National Forest. What we will get to see today is a little bit of cut and fill, or if you want to put it in other words, aggradation and degradation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tori Kurtz. I'm a range land management specialist on the Crooked River National Grassland and the other part of the Lookout Mountain District. And I'm going to talk to you today about juniper, which there's no shortage of.
My name is Krista Lopez, and I'm the botanist on the east side of the Ochoco National Forest, and I'll just be talking about all the other plants besides juniper.
I'm Dee Dee Steele. I'm a wildlife biologist on Crooked River National Grassland and on Lookout Mountain District with Ochoco, and I'll be talking about seasonal restrictions for nesting raptors.
And did you bring the scopes?
I did.
So how many?
Two.
2 scopes she said.
Good morning, my name is Jeff Marzell. I'm a forest planner on the Plana District of the Ochoco National Forest, but I'm also an avid bird watcher, and I'll be on the hike with Bill and pointing out birds along the way, and if anyone has any questions or has more interest in birds, let me know, and I'd be happy to talk to you.
So they have set up stations on the way. They, as part of their job, took a hike along here to find stations so that they could stop and find the best place to point things out to you. Feel free to stop and visit with them. Feel free to circle back and visit them if there's a crowd. They're going to kind of play it by ear depending on what you guys want. But they're all going to be in that first 1.7 miles before the rendezvous point. They will be around the rest of the day, and so please use them for their expertise.
I think it's great that they really showed up.
Yes.
Areas, and we are a newly formed, well, about a year ago, conservation group. and we are dedicated to restoring and preserving all this beautiful wild landscape, and we're so thrilled to be involved in this hike today, and maybe later on in the year we'll get Bill Sullivan to come back and do a slideshow for us. He said he would do that. And anyway, we're one of the sponsors of the hike today, which took a lot of planning from Ruth Ann's part, and she's worked mega hours on it. But anyway, get back to the point here. We, fans group, there's about 7 or 8 of us here. Want to stand up for a minute?
Okay.
We are offering to take you on little short hikes if you still feel inclined to maybe not do the long hike and you want to come back to the Sandbagger, which is just a couple buildings down here. It's a restaurant. We'll be there from 1 to 3, and we'll be glad to take you on little short hikes from here. We have the Hollywood Road hike down in the canyon. We have some lookout spots if you just want to go out and look down into the Crooked River Canyon, which is just awesome. And there's also a short hike you can take on the Crooked River Canyon that goes, it's about a mile hike, and it actually circles back across from the riding arena, and then it continues on this side. So if you're interested in these short hikes, we'll make ourselves available from 1 to 3. Actually, you have a lot of people on the bus have to leave by 3:03, and so we'll be there. We have our name tags on. Let's see, what am I forgetting?
Well,
Van tour.
Mona is also going to lead the van tour. So, and David is going to be the driver. Woo! And thank you, Crooked River Ranch seniors. Now don't go away, Mona. You don't know what all you have to say. Crooked River Ranch seniors have graciously let us use their van, and we have 9 people, and Mona is going to take you on a guided tour, and I want you to tell them what they can see.
Okay, it's just a 1-hour tour on the van, and we're going to leave from here. We're going to go, we're going to pass up the trailhead that you're hiking on, because there's no reason to go there, but we're going to go up the hill, stop at a viewpoint, and then we're going to continue on basically the whole perimeter of the ranch. And we'll stop at the other trailheads. And there is a map in your bags that you're going to be getting shortly. Anyway, the trailheads are on this map, and so the van is going to stop by and show you where the Scout Camp Trail is. And there's a few other trailheads. There's probably about 9 altogether. So we want you to come back. We want you to enjoy the ranch. And our fans group is going to be doing hikes on a regular basis too. We have one planned for June 1st, National Trails Day, from our Sand Ridge trailhead. And that's one of the stops in the van. But anyway, we're surrounded by, we think, the most spectacular scenery in Central Oregon with our deep canyons and the views of the mountains, and you can see Smith Rock, so
if you do see one. The ticks might be starting to hatch. Just kind of watch your pant legs. If you do notice one climbing up any of your friends and neighbors, give them a little shout and then warn the whole group that yes, they're out and about. But I think we're okay at this point in time. For using the bathroom out there, I think they've arranged a few porta potties at the trailhead. So
And that's the only place.
Please use them at the start.
And they delivered them to the wrong place Friday. So you're lucky you don't have to walk 2 miles to them. We did get them re-delivered, and Mona checked on it and David checked on it. Yes, we got them to the right place.
All right.
But
if nature calls while you're out there, leave no trace. Ask that you dig a little cat hole 6 to 8 inches deep and bury your waste there. They say pack out the toilet paper. I'm not going to check on this trip. If you were my camp kids, I would check, but I won't check you out this time.
oh, thank you. These are adults. They're not just for kids, right?
We're all big.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Jim. Jim is going to be on the second loop, the Opal Springs. You should get, and please check for this little list. I understand that I did not give them enough, and so they're not right now in every bag. I have enough. Please check that you have that. The BLM gave us these nice plastic bags, so you can carry out all your trash, toilet paper, if you need it. And in them, you have a welcome to the ranch and Terrebonne. I put in a packet of Kleenex for everybody, and I got 10 of these. When we were out here, so I asked, where's Stacy Lacey? Did she go with them? Well, when I asked her, what do you do out there to get a hole if you need it? And she said, I usually use my boot and just kick it. Well, when we hiked this trail, the ground was really hard. And I said, you know, that's not going to work. And how far should you be off the trail, Jim? 200 feet. Okay? So I got 10 of these. They are dollar store quality. But they should work well. And the 10 are going to be in the blue bags. So anyone who is willing to take a blue bag, we get to be in line first to get your lunch and get on the bus. Now, when I was looking, you know, you look for some of these things, and I found these first. So I don't know how well they work, but if anyone would like to try, biodegradable, I do have a couple of extras that someone can use. And, you know, I am sorry, I grew up without this, but they will also have hand sanitizer, which might be like this or might be in the a packet to pull out. So this is the end. You
So the other species are dormant or sleeping all winter long. If it's a warm day, a juniper can actually start photosynthesizing and making energy for itself. And so it can outcompete these other species really well. So fire suppression, historic overgrazing, and then the third thing is, in the turn of the century, 1910s up till about the 1930s, it was a much wetter time period. On the Crooked River National Grasslands, there were hundreds of homesteads, and they were actually growing dryland wheat just from the rain. And so the juniper in that wetter environment was really able to establish itself. So that's why we're seeing this much more increase of juniper in the area. And the public land managers and all different partners are trying to do what they can to bring fire back into the area, or cut it down, or open up areas for firewood so that we could try to get it to a more balanced level. Yeah. Oh, I was going to tell you, when I started kind of preparing for juniper, in the 1930s, they estimated the millions of acres in Oregon of juniper to be 1.5 million. And then in the 1990s, they estimated it at 6.5 million. So, and that's probably grown even more now. So a huge increase in juniper.
Can you use it for lumber or cabinetry or something?
You can. I mean, a lot of people think it's really beautiful, but it's really hard on your saws and labor and time intensive. So that's kind of, they keep trying to find a market. There's a lot of talk about biofuels as a market, but nothing really has come yet. It burns really well as firewood, but again, it takes a lot of work to get it. Yeah.
You see areas where people have sawed a bunch of them down. Is that enough to kill the tree right there, or will it start to grow back?
That's a good question. If you can get underneath every single leaf and branch, then it will kill it. But if you leave one, it will grow again.
What eats the berries? Yeah.
You I'm not sure exactly which birds eat the berries.
Oh, robins really love the berries. Yeah,
And
robins
they
really
can
eat
get
them up. Yeah.
really drunk on them.
I get drunk on the berries. Yeah? I learned gin, obviously, from juniper, but what I learned is that it's more of a shrub. It's not these actual trees that we're seeing here.
Different junipers that grow in Asia that are more of a shrub. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask, so if we have juniper on our property, which probably most of us do, but should it be thinned? Should we get rid of some of them, or what would you recommend?
Well, a combination of both would be great. I mean, ideally, if you looked for some of those characteristics of broader, widespread juniper, those are ones that were what we would call like an old growth juniper. So you could keep those and thin around it, limbing it up so that if the fire does get in the area, it won't be carried as well. Those are all things that can be done. Yep.
Is it invasive? Was it an invasive species?
It's native.
It is native. I thought it was invasive. It's actually native.
I think people, they get, they're really good, and that's why some people call them weeds, because they can really take advantage of things. So juniper's really good at taking advantage of the water, the limited water that's here, and so that might be why it gets that term of a weed or an invasive, but it is native to this area.
How far do we have to go to our lunch stop? Quarter, half mile or quarter mile or something?
Yeah?
Our lunch is back at the...
I'll share my apple with you. There's a big trail junction up there, and we'll stop there and have lunch, and I think have some more stuff to talk about up there.
Yeah.
And you'll be there too?
Yeah, I'll follow you
Okay,
guys
so
up.
we can ask more
So
questions
is
then.
this all of you guys?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
I do know that
I think Dee Dee and Carrie and everyone's going to come this way as well, so there's going to be other people behind them.
There's two people who got left behind, and so I know other people were waiting to talk to them.
Yeah, and I know the Forest Service people plan on coming.
Yeah.
Heatherow Butte lava flow at the top up here, and it's on either side of the canyon walls. The very top, that top basalt flow is 5.3 million years old. The bottom of the canyon down here, the Osborne Canyon, there's an ignimbrite down there and an Opal Springs number. They are 5.8 million years old. So what you're seeing in here, I'm not talking about what we're standing on yet. I'll get to that. But talking about the bigger canyon feature that we have here is basically it represents half a million years. 5.3 to 5.8. Basically got a half a million years spread out in there. These volcanoes, we've been in a very active, volcanically active area for millions of years, and especially the last 60 million years. Focused on the last 5 million years, a lot of these lava flows and the tuff flows, and I'll talk about that. That's that bedded stuff that you see underneath the cliff former over there. These are all coming from local volcanoes that are along the crest of the Cascades, along the edge of the Cascades, sitting under those pretty ice cream cone volcanoes that we look at now that are so scenic when you get up here on the top and you look off to the west. These were older volcanoes. They were very active about 5 million years ago. Fast forward to 1.2 million years ago. How many of you have been to Lake Billy Chinook? Most everybody. There's a cute little feature out there that's called the island. All right. Well, for those of you that have been lucky enough to maybe go up on special walks to pull grass up there and climb up, yeah, I see a couple heads nodding, climbing up that trail, you're climbing up the island basalt flow, which is this basalt flow that we're looking at right here. What does water do? Water goes down drainages, doesn't it? Lava does the same thing. Any sort of mud flow, whether it be a volcanic mud flow or a landslide or a big flood or just a river, they go down whatever drainage they have available to them. So here we are with this big, huge chasm that was cut out by the Crooked River on this side. The chute's on the other side. Crooked River came down through here. Then we had this 1.2 million year old lava flow that came through here, clogged the whole thing up. And the reason we know that is if you look from this vantage point, you see a mid-level bench that is on either side of the canyon, and it looks like, and you will find out later, that there is another chasm inside of it. That's what we're looking at. So imagine this was filled about a third of the way up here, 300 feet deep of lava at one point in time. Then the Crooked River came through, cut it out. That's how we can see the 5.8 million year old rock in the bottom. Basically, it filled it up, cut it back down to that original bottom. We had this little volcano that you guys probably know of, which was, it's one of the largest shield volcanoes. Does anybody know where that is? Just a little south of us here. Newberry, that's right, it's Newberry. Newberry's a shield volcano. It does have a couple other types of volcanoes interior, but the shield volcano part of it actually had a lot of lava flows. That's how you build a shield volcano. 780,000 years ago, a basalt flow came ripping down out of Newberry and parked itself. It didn't quite fill up the canyon. It parked itself back here, about where the administrative building is, and back. It just fell out. We lost the lava. It didn't fill up the canyon. It stopped back there. But if you are standing at Peterson and Ogden, you're looking at standing on Newberry from 780,000 years ago. Our volcanics aren't done yet. We had this eruption 7,000 years ago. Can anybody tell me where the only national park here is in Oregon? Crater Lake. Mount Mazama, 7,000 years ago, bequeathed us with a 1.5 foot of really fine edge. But if you go down, that's where you get into the pumice. This is actually it is, because I picked this up down there around the time. There's about 15 feet. That's not a problem with picking up pumice down there. So here's the other thing about pumice. Oh, it's waving this map around. We geologists tend to like colored maps. So in a nutshell, we're basically looking at all of these different layers that have been built up. And that bright blue that's going down to the middle of the map is this island basalt flow. So that's the fun thing about being a geologist. You never know. You think things are all of the same age. You look up there and go, oh, that's got to be the same age. Well, not necessarily.
Well, what is puzzling to me, but you're saying that the lava flow down here in the bottom of the canyon is actually younger than the flow at the top. It's old.
5.8, and this is 5.3. Tether over.
Oh, okay.
Now, the one that's filling the canyon,
Yeah.
this is called intra-canyon flow.
Yeah.
Is we had this existing canyon that has 5.3. Remember that? You got to basically, who was the first one to the party? You got your coat on the bottom, and then everybody that else comes to the party, coats go on top. Okay, that's how geologists, one-way geologists look at rocks. So we have 5.3 is one of the younger flows right here in this area, is sitting up there at Tether Butte. In the bottom of the canyon, where the river has scoured down to, is 5.8. Then we had this new, and this lava flow that ripped down through. It could have easily been a big mud flow. Now the stuff that we can't lay our hands on and is actually hidden in the slope debris over here is something that's called an ignimbrite or a ash flow tuff. And all that is something that looks like this. It weathers very nicely. These pumice fragments are these little squished out fragments in the rock. So think big, hot flow. It's basically a big volcanic mud flow. For those of you that may have had vivid memories of Mount St. Helens, this is the stuff that came. Most of the time I talk to folks and they're going, when was that?
Yeah.
Talk to younger folks.
I was going to say, exactly. I figured I was pretty safe in saying vivid memories. That's the same material that came out of Mount St. Helens, but much smaller volume. So in our neighborhood here, we are volcanically active. And we have been and we will be. It just is the name of the game. We're basically does gas do, like when you have a can of pop and you shake it up? Yeah, you get a lot of bubbles in the top. Well, the gas bubbles float to the top in these lava flows, and they basically chill out. And that's where, if you're looking at your soils really good, you can see little gas bubbles of quartz. Like I do, you're sitting there at lunchtime, carrying through the dirt to see what you can find. So that's vesicular basalt that's in the top of the flow. Then when you come down through the flow, you get these columns that are called the colonnade. That's another part. And then down at the bottom, you get a real sweaty, scouring stuff where it's basically bubbling up and moving across the ground and mixing in with the soil and baking the soil. So it's a very porous kind of material. Down in the bottom, when you guys get out to Ozzy, where you can look down at Opal Springs, that's why the springs are there. The water, groundwater, is literally coming through that broken material at the bottom of the lava flow, courtesy of the Cascades. That's what came out of that Deschutes groundwater test years ago. That's how come we have, when you're at Peterskeen, Ogden, you've got a river there. The Crooked River is a losing reach until it hits Peterskeen, Ogden, and all of those springs are coming in. It becomes a gaining reach. Groundwater is linked to geology.
Is Opal Springs coming in from that side of the river?
Literally is what it is it's coming under. And
how does it do that? The water comes from the Cascades, goes under the river, and then comes back in on this side?
Yeah. Okay. The reason we know that is they were looking at the geochemistry and with looking at the lava flows and the fracture patterns of how that water could carry through, literally is flowing through vesicular basalt. Well, you think about this. I said this was at the top of the flow, so this is very porous. And then you got that rattly stuff in the bottom of the next flow up. So you've got and any soil horizon that might have developed in the middle there, so you've got a pretty good zone that water could move through. It doesn't move through the solid stuff as much, but it'll move through this. It will also move through those sediments of the Deschutes formation. So it takes advantage of wherever it can move through, and then it's coming under the canyon and coming out on the east side. So it's not coming from the Ochocos that I had always thought.
But
no.
it had to come under the Deschutes River too.
Yes.
And then come, oh, that's crazy.
Yes, I know. It boggles my mind. This is the 3D part of being a geologist, but it really helps to learn your area. Did I see a question back there?
If you're done.
Go ahead.
So I'm used to seeing all over the Northwest these columnar basalt flows that give such characteristic rims, and we can see multiple layers here and stuff. Are these all from local shield volcanoes, as opposed to, like right now we have more characteristically the pyroclastic volcanoes with the explosive eruptions and the andesite and the rhyolites and stuff? Are these all these basalt rims that we see all over the Northwest, are they from local shield volcanoes? Or it seems like I remember there was some larger Columbia outflowing of basalt.
Question. What he's talking about is right here, all of these flows that we're looking at are part of very local volcanoes. They didn't come from miles and miles away. They literally were, well, miles as far as Newberry, but probably not a whole lot further than Newberry this direction. Just figure it a fairly localized area. The flows that he is talking about, as you drive north on 97 and you leave Madras and start up the hill, you're getting into another physiographic province, which is basically the Columbia Plateau. The majority of those lava flows came from fissures in the northeast part of Oregon, southeast corner of Washington State. These were huge fissures that just punched out volume, miles and miles of lava that actually ended up on the Oregon coast. It filled up the whole basin at such weight it actually sank that whole basin. So when you're seeing these pancake layers of big basalt flows, that's the voluminous flows that we haven't seen the like of. There's some in India, there's some in some other parts of the world, but it was a pretty unique geologic relationship to have that kind of lava flow. What we're talking about here are the little local things. If our local volcanoes ever decided to get active, that's what we would be seeing, is these little bitty flows that are floating around.
And the Columbia River basalt floods are older too. They're like 15 million years or so.
15 to 17 million year old.
But they're the second largest basalt floods anywhere on the planet. There are bigger ones in India, and the biggest ones in the solar system are on Mars. It had the same, same kind of huge basalt floods there. They did go all the way to the ocean. All of the headlands, Cape Lookout and Cape Disappointment, all the way down to Yaquina Head, those are all the tips of lava flows that came from Idaho and went down the Columbia River and went out to the ocean.
And that's a story. The Columbia hasn't always been where it is.
No,
But that's a whole other story. Okay, so the other couple rocks, and I've got one other that I wanted to show you. This is one. It's called Cinder. It's from a very steep-sided little type of volcano. It's cinder cone. If you look carefully along the rim on the east rim, you will see evidence of it as you get further on down around the corner here. There's a little cinder cone up on top. We also have one that's, for those of you that are familiar with where Round Butte is, there's also a cinder cone there.
Is that actually a lava bomb?
It is.
It was blown out as liquid rock and cooled in flight. And so it has this streamlined shape.
Aerodynamic.
Yeah. And you'll find these lava bombs around within about a mile or so of a cinder cone.
Yeah.
They blew out.
Because they literally, and it's a very explosive eruption. Now, the flip side is this stuff, which most of you know. It's a nice piece of obsidian. This is a very slow-moving type of lava.
Whoa.
And no, I did not pick this up at Newberry. This actually came from a flow down in California, but where you can collect. But the cool thing I find is that geologically, these are all the same rhyolite. They're all the same geochemistry.
Mostly silica, mostly glass.
Mostly glass, and this little puppy can do one thing most rocks can't. It'll float. It'll float in water. And the one other thing, courtesy of our geologic terrain, are thunder eggs. Because thank heavens for our geologic country, we have a lot of silica-rich waters. This is the golden eagle in flight again. Is it a golden eagle? It's big. We just saw it a little bit ago. Thunder eggs are courtesy of our geology. So if you have any questions about geology, pick up Bill and Elizabeth Orr's book. There it is. The golden eagle?
Golden eagle right there flying down
See if it comes
So if you're interested in our local geology, pick up Bill and Elizabeth Orr's book on geology of Oregon. It gives you a good overview of what we've got here in the Northwest, particularly Central Oregon. Any other questions?
Why did the columns form like that? Why are they?
It's chilling from the top down and the bottom up, and so and it's the nature of the chemistry of the rock. They chill different ways. So if you look at something called a rhyolite flow, they're big columns versus the smaller columns that are part of the lava.
As it cools, if it cools slowly, it cracks in hexagonal format. It's just the way it does. And it's always perpendicular to the cooling surface. That's why they're mostly up like this. But in the gorge, sometimes you see weird, twisted shapes. That's because the ground was uneven, and it was going over a slope, and so it cooled perpendicular to that slope. Got it? Yeah, all right. Okay, let's hike on some more.
But that's basically
air pocket. Yeah,
big bubble.
Big bubble. Got it.
Kind of cool.
That is cool.
What in there?
Delicacy. You know, they're opportunistic, and so if there's something easy, you know, they will definitely take it. They will also take roadkill or you know, animals that have perished. So they're not fussy about that. So they're pretty opportunistic. And another question? Man-made nests that you have with like ice blocks or fractures in those. A lot of those platforms are, especially if they're close to bodies of water, are occupied by osprey. In some cases, they're also built for geese, and then you may have some other raptors or owls, like some of the hawks would use a platform. But most of them that are built are for osprey. just like the peregrine falcons that nest in cities on buildings and bridges. You know, they have a different mindset of what's normal than a peregrine falcon living on a cliff in the wilderness.
Is their population fairly stable? They weren't as impacted by EDP, were they, not being fished?
They're more impacted from pesticides because they don't the migratory waterfowl like the bald eagles do. They have a tendency to blend from birds that feed wetland areas. Golden eagles, we don't really know what the trend is, and so right now we have a pretty good idea of what's going on with bald eagles, but the Oregon Eagle Foundation started up a study, and we're in our 3rd year, and we're monitoring all of the golden eagle territories, or at least 80% of the golden eagle territories in the state of Oregon. So we have somewhere around 750 territories that we're monitoring statewide, and it's this huge effort of volunteers and cooperators. I'm part of that effort, but the area that I survey is over towards Prineville more. This particular area is also being studied under that same survey. This particular territory is monitored by Portland General Electric. They're a partner in the program. So, like I said, we're in our 3rd year, and if you want to read about what has been found, you could probably go tied to cliffs are still active. Territories can go on for decades, and it doesn't mean but over time you may lose one member of the pair. It's eventually replaced, eventually the other one. And so over time these territories will kind of transition through pairs, but they tend to stay fairly active for a very long time.
So when the babies hatch out and fledge and fly away, then you'll open the tail down here, I assume. But
yes.
How do you know when they're going to fledge and fly away? Is there an eagle cam, or do you have like an Animal Planet
There are a couple of nests that have a camera on them, and you can actually go on and pull up the eagle cams, and you can look at them. Wolftree has a very nice eagle cam on a golden eagle on a cliff. You can watch the chicks moving around. It's great.
Yeah.
But as far as the other 750-something territories, we have individual people who are following a protocol, going to a specific observation point with equipment like this. We tend to monitor them from about a half a mile away. In some cases, we're able to get in a little closer. In some cases, it's a mile away. It's a little challenging. So we basically have people assigned to all these territories, and then they give the data to a person who coordinates the whole statewide effort, and he processes the data and produces a report. So that's Frank Isaacs with the Oregon Eagle Foundation. So I think you can pull those reports up online if you're interested. And if you want to volunteer, he has a huge volunteer effort, and he assigns people to territories or areas, and then all the territories within an area. So he's always looking for people who are interested in doing the monitoring work and being part of the program. We have lots of folks from all different agencies, businesses, general public involved. So if you're interested, that would be something that we could get on board with.
More questions about eagles? Well, maybe we should hike on.
And if you didn't get to see the poster on the way in about why there's a seasonal restriction, check it out on your way out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Came back down and smoked. They got lost in the lake because the cold water of the Metolius was much colder than the middle Deschutes and the crooked rivers, and they usually followed that path back upstream, and they got lost. They thought the ocean was up the Metolius. They never made their way to the ocean. So Portland General Electric and the tribes have put a lot of money into this thing. It's really high-tech, fancy thing, way over my head scientifically of what's actually going on there and the blending of the water that they do. But with that effort, the Deschutes Valley, what are they named? Deschutes Valley Water District has come to a settlement agreement with the National Marine Fisheries Service, BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service, Bureau of Indian Affairs, ODF&W, and Trout Unlimited to provide fish passage at that dam.
Yeah.
They're not required to, but just because of the local efforts to restore salmon and steelhead, they've gone along with the plan and they're putting some money and effort into it as well. That is funding dependent. The plan's done, the agreement's done, but there's no money to actually construct that yet. So the next step is gathering that local momentum to get some funding. What will happen is this dam will be raised 6 feet. This will become a larger reservoir down here. This rapid right here, I believe it's this one, will get it washed out about halfway by that new reservoir.
They're making a bigger dam, and that's going to solve the problem?
Well, they'll provide fish passage. There'll be a large ladder on the right side, on the east side of the dam, which will connect that lost piece.
It's still not intuitive.
No, they'll be raising the dam, creating another reservoir here, but then they'll be able to build that large fish passage that will connect this. It'll allow salmon, steelhead, bull trout, and red bands to pass up and down. They'll block bass, smallmouth bass, from the lake from coming up into here. Sockeye don't run up this side, they never historically did, but the kokanee from Subtle Lake will naturally connect back to the ocean and become sockeye salmon once again. So that's another fish species. This is supposedly in the next couple years is when they'll start working on this piece of the dam. But the Lake Billy Chinook one is built, and it started working last year. They started passing salmon and steelhead above it just as a trial. But next year I think will be the big push for the Metolius and Middle Deschutes side. Once this is done, it'll connect 108 more miles of fish habitat.
Is it true that the fish passage is really only a sidelight, and what they really want is a dam to produce power?
No, they had to go through the relicensing thing anyway. It was time to do that anyway. And really, because it started early, they weren't required to build a fish passage. Deschutes Valley could have said, you know, we're not interested. But because of the local momentum and what's going on at Lake Billy Chinook, they said, let's do this. So.
Will they generate power too?
Yes. They're going to increase their power generation and provide fish passage. So it's looked at as a win-win between all the agencies. That's about it.
No, that's great.
Have you done this before?
I haven't floated this. I've been pestered a few times to lead a raft trip, and I'm not comfortable doing it without somebody that's done it before. It's a pretty hectic canyon when it's running. It's class 4 plus of constant extreme whitewater when the water's really flowing.
Bert, right up your alley.
Yeah.
He's a guide.
Yeah, from the Lone Pine Bridge to Opal Springs is a good class 4 or 5 whitewater run when it's running.
I can learn on that.
Unless your insurance is paid.
It is.
Not a problem.
So there are good trout fishing down here, but like they were saying earlier, before the springs start coming back in about this Peterscane Audun Overlook, that Smith Rock kind of area after it goes through Prineville into Smith Rock is kind of a dead zone for trout. You can catch some pike minnow in there, but it gets really warm and stagnant for the trout. But once the springs start kicking in again, there's pretty good trout fishing again down here.
I don't think so. Well, great. Thank you.